Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be taking a bendy back and forth lamp. That's definitely the technical term for it, yes. I'm going to be making the Beetlejuice lamp. You can search it up on Pinterest or just take my word on it that it's pretty freaking cool but also pretty freaking expensive. I picked this one up at a thrift store for more expensive than it needed to be, but I also had a 20% off coupon, so la-di-da. Removing the price tag and anything else off of it, including this random magnet for a company I've never even heard of, and giving a little off-screen wipe down. The next step was a doozy. I was attempting to take the lamp's head off and tried multiple tools to do this. The outside screw was easy, and the hope it gave me was definitely false. I used multiple wire cutters, I used pliers, I used so many different tools. I also took the underside off of it, thinking that I could pull everything through, which I could not. I ended up having to take a whole ass pair of steel snips to it and chop through for about 10 minutes. Yes, you could as well just had the naked cord and light attachment from a hardware store, but it's too late for me. Save yourselves. The trouble, at least. The next was to remove the back slidey up and down thingy, which again, very technical names here on my channel. When that failed though, I realized I no longer cared just because. Totally had nothing to do with it failing. So I built around it, using tinfoil and my brute strength to shape it around the lamp and bend it to my will. Once I had the shape that I wanted down, I taped around it to keep it together. And give the clay something better to apply to, which brings me to my next step, the clay. This is not the light air dry clay. This is a heavier substitute because I want it to be more stable, which is another reason why I added the tinfoil, to add volume without the weight. So it would be a little bit lighter weight but also have something to it, you know? I just took a round of clay, shaped it and made it fairly thin, and placed it on the mess of a lamp that was currently going on. Trust the process, I suppose. and eventually had the shape that I wanted it to be. Then smoothed everything down as much as possible with, again, brute strength with my hands and water. Let that dry overnight and came in with some slip to go into any cracks that may have formed from the drying process. Once that dried down though, again overnight, I used a mixture of washi tape and small brushes to get crisp lines, like crisp rat. The washi tape down first and fill each stripe with either black or white. Remove the washi tape and then use a smaller detailing brush to fix any lines that had not been as sharp as I wanted them to be. I had no solid plans for this with the number of stripes that I wanted, just that it was to begin with black and end with white. From then on, it was just a ton of artistic liberties. While that was fully drying down, it was time for the lampshade, which I also picked up from the thrift store. Since the color was not what I wanted it to be, I used a mixture of fabric medium, which you can get at any craft store, and acrylic paint to make my own fabric paint. About a 1-to-1 ratio, but I eyeballed the crap out of it, so it doesn't have to be super specific. Painting the middle portion black with 2 coats just to be sure it covered. And the border detailing first with a white mixture, because ain't no way I'm adding a green over top of a red and expecting it not to look like crap. Literally. Learning the color wheel was one of the best decisions I ever did. So white as basically like essentially a primer. And then a few layers of the very light Beetlejuice-esque green. It's showtime. Obviously, leaving them to dry in between. While that was drying, I went back to my base, which, as you may know, with all of my clay creations, I always add at least 1 to 2 layers of resin, especially with a project of this magnitude. The good thing about putting a shiny resin on top of a matte acrylic paint project is that you can easily see where you have and haven't placed the resin just simply by using a flashlight or your phone's flashlight, as the resin will reflect, the matte paint will not. So just look for a lack of reflection and add it on top. And since the lampshade will be using the light bulb as a somewhat of a stabilizer, I didn't want it to emit any heat, so I opted for a LED light bulb rather than just a regular run-of-the-mill light bulb. I was also having some issues stabilizing the lampshade, so I added some extra metal hooks of sorts and then epoxy to the top to make it as sturdy as possible. This time I didn't use a regular epoxy, I used a metal epoxy, which is going to be a steel stick. I had also previously taken the bottom portion off when I was messing around with it, thinking I could maybe pull up the lamp's intestines from the bottom. Turns out I could not, so I'm putting on some super glue on that now, and then placing the lamp back on, and we're done. Like I said, it's showtime.